From bliss to abyss. In the Garden of Eden, flowers always bloomed. The sun shone every day, filling the land with light and warmth. Eve was born in the garden. She lived there freely and peacefully amongst other living creatures. The garden's wide open spaces were hers to explore and enjoy. Eve frolicked at leisure in the garden. She knew every part of it, every one of its secret spots. She was surrounded by beauty and idyllic splendor. The garden was packed with lively, healthy flowers of a variety of species, coexisting in harmony. As Eve moved through them, flowers swayed in her direction and spread a sweet scent in the light breeze, their fragrance lingering for a time before being carried far and away. Eve sunbathed among the flowers. Lying down, she was caressed by their gentleness. They held her in their loving embrace. Eve was happy. Eve built her shelter in this terrestrial paradise and foraged for sustenance amongst its plentiful growth. She had but one rule to follow: take only what is needed and leave the rest for others and for the continued health and growth of the garden. Eve was dependent on the garden for all her needs, and as it continued to provide for her, she grew brazenly confident that it would do so for all eternity. Taking it for granted, she began to test her limits, excessively drawing from its abundant offerings for added gain, believing that, as the favorite of all of the garden species, it existed primarily for her needs and pleasure. One day, a new strain of life emerged. Slight and frail, they were half machine, half flesh and blood. The insect-looking organism seemed limp and broken. Their slender, skeletal-like bodies were thinly veiled by a layer of loose and transparent skin. They appeared like apparitions, vulnerable and ghastly, and clinging to metal chains and cables, drained arteries that could barely supply nourishment. Were they always there, existing unnoticed in the margins, or did they come from elsewhere? At first, the insects were friendly to Eve, offering attention and companionship. They were useful yet devious, able to manipulate a naive and self-absorbed Eve into further reckless resource exploitation. They enticed her into ravaging whole regions of the garden, even those flowers not yet ripe for picking. Their enticement slowly programmed her to become an instrument in their cause for dominance. With the rapid multiplication of the insects, Eve became subservient to them. She lost sight of her future and the well-being of the garden. Poorly treated and unable to regenerate after each picking, soon the beautiful flowers died out and the garden of Eve's past disappeared. The earth turned dark and gloomy. The insects quickly flourished in a new reality made in their own vision. Eve too had to adapt to her new environment. The Garden of Eden now lived only in her dreams. It was getting harder and harder to believe it ever existed.